The information discussed on Talkin' Money with Jeff Tarbell is believed to be from reliable sources. However, no responsibility is assumed for inaccuracies. No statement made on this broadcast should be construed as a specific recommendation of a particular investment product. Views expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent those of CBS Radio. Use only as directed.
Smiles, everyone. Smiles. And prepare yourself for...
Show me the money!
Ladies and gentlemen, the radio broadcast experience designed to keep your wallet in top condition. It's Talkin' Money with Jeff Tarbell.
Talkin' money. Talkin' money. More money, more money, more money.
And now entering the studio, your guru for fiscal fitness, Jeff Tarbell.
All right, how you doing?
Good morning. What's happening?
Now, Chris, I literally have to hold this button in with my thumb in order to hear myself. So I don't know what's going on over here, but I'll be in this position the whole time here. If I do that, I can't hear anything. There we go. I don't know what's going on here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
What's that?
I said I'm doing great.
Okay. See, I can't. There you go. I'm gonna hold that position. I'll move after the break. I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, if you little dial moves, it cuts off. So are you having that issue?
No. I don't work in there. So.
But you don't come in here, so it's not an issue for you.
And there's no buzzing, so I just didn't touch this thing.
That was
I didn't
even
touch it.
That was the problem. I touched something. That's the anyway. We always start off the show apparently complaining about the equipment now, so we'll get going there. We'll see what's on the mind of Christopher Lott. I'll see if I can play with my little dial here again. And I know you'll go broke. You go broke or you go blind if you do something. Anyway, what's on your mind there, big boy?
Well, I'm doing great since the Boston Red Sox won the World Series, but it's kind of this weird feeling where you're so happy that they won and you're so excited, but at the same time, it's almost like a fleeting feeling because it's like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to watch any baseball now for the next 3, 4, 5 months. So that's how sick it is to become a fan of any sports team. You're happy for literally a day or two, and then it's just, what do I do now? Especially with the Red Sox when they win 3 World Series, and they're kind of front runners now. So it's just a weird feeling.
He's touting up the Sox pretty good here.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
It's kind of weird when someone asked me, it's like, hey, 10 years ago, did you think that the Red Sox would win 3 World Series? I said, never thought they'd win anything.
Yeah. That was a fun series to watch. All right, that's Christopher Lott. I'm going to have to play around with this thing a little bit after the break. So anyway, we've got second half of the show today. We did invite a guest to come in. If you are like my wife and myself and you've got some children that are now teens and actually looking into college and some other things as well, hopefully you have started to do a little college planning, and there's the financial end of the planning, which is a big part of it, but there's also, I'll be honest with you, if I had to go to college today, I probably just wouldn't go. I mean, the amount of things, the hoops and hurdles you have to go through to get into these schools, I mean, everybody seems to be impacted, and we'll talk about that in the second half of the show today. We have an expert coming in, tell you a little bit about some of the pre-work you can do, and I'll be honest, I don't know there's such thing as being too early in terms of doing some of that. I've got, what were freshmen last year, and we did a little college touring with their sister who was going to become a senior, and it had a remarkable impact on freshmen about what does different schools look like? What is that? Where do you want to go? If you wanted to go to a school like this, what does it mean? What are they looking for in you? And for one of my daughters, it completely turned her around in terms of just her desire to get her grades, just higher classes and better grades, and do better at those things too. So I don't think there can be such thing as it's too early. I mean, 8th grade's probably too early, but I don't know that
9th grade you got to be moving.
9th grade you got to be doing something. Yeah. So we'll do that in the second half of the show today. So hang around for that. And if you've got some calls and questions you want to get in that, or you've been looking at different things or wondering why, I think the whole college thing is a scam. And what I mean is that the California schools don't want California kids. They already got our money, so they want out-of-state kids, and all the out-of-state kids want the California kids because they'll pay everybody's. So it's like if we had separate businesses, look at you take this guy and we'll charge them double. I'll take them and we'll charge them double, even though they've been paying you for the last 19 years and I've been paying you. So we'll just shuffle the deck and get more money out of everybody. That's the whole damn thing in a nutshell there. Okay, we'll see you next week. And now you know how it's going.
We wrapped it up.
So put a little bow on that and call it a day. So we'll do that in the second half of the show if you're interested in that. little bit of Halloween trivia for you. Did you everybody get home safe last night? And we don't get any kids now that I moved, and we're kind of in the. I say we're in the country. We're not in the country, but it seems like it. So nobody comes over there. So I have to go to other houses to. There just aren't that many little kids anymore.
I think they're going to different events and different things now.
Is that what it is?
I believe so.
Well, it could be that our neighborhood is just, people haven't moved out, so they're all high school kids and older now, but. There aren't a lot of little kids anymore.
Not making babies anymore?
No. Well, they are, but they're just not in our neighborhood, I guess, or they're not moving. So this was, I thought this was interesting. This was the new flavors of treats. So let me know if you got any of this in your Halloween candy bar. These are the hottest new trends in candy. We'll get this out of the way because after next week, why are you reading this now? Hammond's Candy's Pigs and Taters. Milk chocolate bar with bacon and potato chips in it. Anybody had that yet? Even Chris doesn't think that sounds... Chris, you wouldn't eat that?
No.
No.
They make more crap with bacon anymore. It's crazy.
I know it. Didn't we get some? We got some cupcakes.
Bacon. Yeah, they had maple bacon cupcakes.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, here we go. Continuing on, the Tabasco flavor jelly beans by Jelly Belly. No. Okay. Black and orange lollipop. That doesn't sound that big a deal. Here you go. Pumpkin spice M&Ms. That might not be bad. I didn't get to those. The panda blueberry licorice. The ginger lemon gummy candy. Ugh. Hershey's Kisses pumpkin spice. That probably wouldn't be bad. What else on here? Here we go. The Wild Ophelia barbecue potato chip dark chocolate bar. And let me tell you about this. Wow. Walgreens tried the brand at a Chicago store for a year and sold out. It's 5,000 outlets. So they would it was super, super popular for the. Let me read that again for you.
Which one was that?
The Wild Ophelia barbecue potato chip dark chocolate bar.
Wow. I'm shocked.
Hey, don't knock it till you try. So there's the candies that you didn't get this week. And speaking of our neighbors there in Fairfield at Jelly Belly, they have just opened up a second expansion of a factory in Thailand, and Jelly Belly is moving a lot of its production overseas. And this I didn't know, although I should have known it. I've been familiar with farm subsidies for most of my life. My grandparents owned some a farm back in North Dakota, so I'm familiar with different types of things you can get. But the United States has a sugar. I don't even want to call it a subsidy. They actually hold pricing on sugar up, and so for the last 12 years, 2000 2012, the average price of U.S. sugar was more than double what you could get it worldwide. So it's almost impossible for a U.S. manufacturer of a sugar product to sell it outside the United States and make any money. It's just that their prices are just too high. So you look at these factories, and it won't surprise me at all. I mean, look at all those Jelly Bellies. Look at that big old warehouse full of all the Jelly Bellies. But it won't surprise me at all if you don't see candy manufacturing and just not in the United States anymore. And here's what they're trying to protect. Without the current U.S. sugar policy, 90% of the 142,000 sugar growing and processing jobs in the United States would probably disappear. So we are going to run out companies to try to protect 140,000 jobs. I mean, at some point you say, am I really, am I helping myself here or not? But this is interesting. So Jelly Belly is right in our backyard. Candy cane maker Bob's Candies moved half of its manufacturing to Mexico. So you probably won't see a lot of candy manufacturing in the United States. Or we're going to have to drop our price. I don't want to call it price support because we're not supporting it. I guess we are. We're keeping it up.
You just keep paying. Candy bar, $2.50.
So you're trying to save 142,000 jobs. In the meantime, you run all the companies. Where's the crossover point where you say, I'm no longer helping, I'm hurting and I'm not helping. So anyway, interesting news in the candy world. That's all I got for the candy world for the day. But I did, speaking of Halloween and death and dying, which we weren't, this came out, I thought I'd get all of my Halloween stuff together one day. States you shouldn't be caught dead in. Anybody see this? No. So this comes up. I had a little meeting with our actually Jeb Burton, who was here one time before. So had a meeting with Jeb this week. Jeb is a trust, kind of a trust attorney, and I think you forget, or I forget, if you do a trust or you do a will, hopefully you're doing some of these things. The medical one, the medical directive, I think is hugely important, and these laws change. And it's not like it doesn't make the front of the Sacramento Bee and says, hey, by the way, the state and the feds have changed the way the medical laws are, and so you have to have this new form, or your wife can't even come into the emergency room if you're incapacitated. And so some of these things have changed, and you don't really know it if you don't ask. So I have a trust that went back to when I had 3 kids that were 3, 3, and 5. And the way you look at things, well, first off, early in your career, so you maybe at that point you didn't have a lot of assets, you didn't even own a home, and what you think about your kids 3, 3, and 5, and who would take care of your kids at 3, 3, and 5 are different at 17, 17, and 19.
Absolutely.
So you have to revisit some of those things, and one of the things we started having this discussion with was inheritance tax and estate taxes and trusts and steps up in basis and medical things, and you got to go through those things. And if you think, well, I don't have enough to worry about. Well, hell, we've talked about it a number of times. They look at the gross assets in terms of the value of your home, not your equity, and different things that will put you into probate. I mean, if you own anything in California, you're into probate. And if you think doing a $2,000 or $3,000 trust is expensive, let a state of California hire an attorney to do something for you. Of course, you'll be dead, but for your family, it is very expensive, and it's a mess. So anyway, it brings it up. That's what caught my attention on this, is that there's been some changes in terms of how much is included in your estate and how you do trusts, and a lot of these things have changed. So I encourage you, if you don't have one, even just a will and a medical directive, if nothing more than those 2 things, you should investigate that. And who can make a decision, an end-of-life decision for you, and how that's made, and who can do these different things. Because, unfortunately, with some friends of mine, we've been through that recently, and how you can do those kind of things. And he was referring me back. Remember the Shivo case? Shivo was the girl in Florida, and there was a huge conflict in their family about who makes that decision. It was the parents versus the husband, and the husband said, "Yeah, I live with her every day. I know exactly what we talked about, what she wanted to do." And the parents said, "No, you're just trying to get rid of her." And it sounds like an easy decision when we're all sitting around having a margarita, but when it really comes right down to it, people have changed. Their minds change. So if you don't have it in writing, you may be hanging around for a while while they fight it over. So. And one of the things I brought up was each individual state has their own little rules on taxes and inheritances. So basically, to summarize, you look at the United States. Don't die in the upper Northeast. It's very expensive up there. So you have states without death taxes at all, which is California, Nevada, most of the West Coast. Then you have estate taxes, inheritance taxes, and both. And so you do need to know these things, and particularly if Oregon and Washington have some estate tax issues, and most of the East Coast does. So you should know it. It does affect you, and you don't have to be rich in order to be affected with these type of things. And we'll have to have Jeb come back on, because he was going through. I mean, you and I do this every Saturday, not well, but we do it. But theoretically, we're looking at at articles and things, and we tend to keep up with what's going on. But he was talking about stuff that, I mean, it's just like, attorneys learn new things, and as new laws, they start looking at trusts and saying, "Oh, I don't know why we're doing that. We shouldn't do it that way anymore. We don't need to do it that way anymore." For example, I didn't know that the estate tax issue was up to 5.2 million or 5.1 million per individual. Now, I think wasn't it last year where I said don't die on December 31st?
Right.
The next morning it became $1 million, from 10 million to $1 million. I guess they've got that all rounded back around into 10 million again.
Funny, you don't hear about things like that.
No, I'm just shy of the $10 million, so it probably hasn't come up yet. But again, if you have a fair amount of life insurance, maybe you're not that shy of $10 million. I don't know. Let's take a quick break. I'm going to see if I can get this stupid little button here to hold itself, so my thumb doesn't go numb here. We got a quiz question for you today. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. You can text us at 441140. And good news, we did sign our new contract with the Sierra at Tahoe Ski Resort. So that is upcoming. We won't have the tickets yet today. I'll tell you, when you start seeing snow hit the ground, we'll have some tickets. We'll start talking about doing some tickets. And theoretically, John and I are going to go up there for maybe the opening day or something close to that. And they've got a whole new facility up there at the.
That's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, so that's coming up today. We'll give out some roundtable pizza, some of our Talkin' Money drink koozies. So what do you got?
So since we're talking about plans and programs, the first question, quiz question of the day is, which percentage of people who are engaged or married have a prenup agreement? So which percentage that are currently engaged or married have a prenuptial agreement?
I thought only the Hollywood types had that.
Well, how many of them are there?
I don't know. It seems like there's a bunch, but so the percentage of people that are married or engaged who have a prenuptial agreement. And there's some interesting facts there that, like, what they're. I mean, what are you really worried about? So we'll talk about that when we come back. We'll get the right answer. So how many people, percentage in this country, have a prenuptial agreement? 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. You can text us at 441140. We're going to take a quick break.
Nothing like a little duct tape.
I've got that thing welded down, so it should be good. My thumb feels better now. We'll be right back.
Talking money.
And we're back. It's Talkin' Money with Jeff Tarbell.
Right. How you doing? We are back on the air, getting our guests all settled in here. We did get I had a quiz question during the break. John had one. The percentage of people who are engaged or married and who have a prenuptial agreement, we still have didn't get the correct answer yet. We'll leave that out here in just a minute. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. It's a low number. Here's a guy that probably should have had one. I just saw that Michael Jordan's home is going to auction. It's not because he's losing it to foreclosure, because he's trying to get the highest price. So estimated price was originally $29 million. That sounds like the Putnam estate, but this was probably a little smaller than that. Lowered the price to $21 million, and they're going to put it at auction. If you want the 7.39-acre property 30 minutes north of Chicago, you can have Michael Jordan's house with the full-blown he's got a full gymnasium there and everything else. He's got the 23 on the gate. And this is why I mentioned the prenuptial agreement. Mr. Jordan, 6 years ago, divorced his wife of 17 years. That cost him how much? $168 million.
Ouch.
Yeah. So he probably deserved it.
Chump change.
Yeah, I mean,
man of that stature.
That guy was making that. That was guy making that per year. I mean, so we'll leave our quiz question out there. If you want to answer that, 339-1140 or 1-800-920-1140 is right here, or you can text us at 441140. What is the percentage of people in the United States that are either engaged or married that actually have a prenuptial agreement? And it's a fairly low number. I would have thought it would be. I'm sure in the Hollywood community it's fairly high, but in the
a lot lower than I expected.
In the regular world, it's let me get let's see where we at here. Microphone 3. Let's try that. How are you doing, Marie?
Good morning. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. So pull that microphone a little closer to you so it's almost touching. There you go.
Okay.
Perfect. That way they hear more of you and less of us, which is exactly our stated mission every morning is to get somebody else's voice on the air. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Thank you for coming down on a Saturday.
Thanks.
Every Saturday for 10 years I've been coming down here. See, this is why I am.
This is home.
This is home. So we were talking at the beginning of the show a little bit about college counselors, and I was mentioning that I have 3 daughters that are senior and 2 sophomores.
So you're right in the middle of things.
Right in the middle of things. And because I am inept in a number of things, most of the important things, I waited, I think, maybe a little too long to get my senior daughter kind of going. And she started talking to counselors, but I mean to kind of get her out there and get them excited about a college.
Right.
And I won't jump all over but I mentioned that if it was up to me today, I probably would just skip the whole dang thing. Because I mean, the hoops you had to. I mean, I didn't have a lot of options. I was like, my family said, "You're actually going to go to school? Oh, okay. Well, there's one down the street, and see if they'll let you in there, and we'll throw in some money if you can figure out how to get into Sac State." And I figured out how to get in and get out.
Right.
But I took our twin daughters when they were freshmen. We took them out, and they got to see the colleges with their older sister.
Perfect.
And that was a really nice thing to do because it got them a little bit excited about, okay, I don't like that. I don't like that kind of feel. I do like that. That's really cool. And then what does it mean to so if you like that environment, it doesn't matter which one it is, what does it mean? What do you have to be to get in here?
Right,
and who
exactly.
Are you competing with? And that's really, you're competing with the whole world to get into a number of spaces.
And you make such a good point that years ago when all of us applied to college, most of us applied to one school. There weren't the numbers of students going to college that there are now. So the process is more competitive. And I totally agree that this idea of checking out colleges, visiting colleges, checking out the fit, deciding what it is that's important to you to be successful in college is a really good exercise. And as you say, to do it earlier in the process rather than waiting till senior year.
Now, I happen to be at UCSB, which is Santa Barbara, last weekend, and I have now determined I'm going back to school.
Absolutely.
Most parents feel that way.
And I don't even care what kind of degree they give me. I just want this office room. This one here overlooks the water.
Yes.
And
Well, I'm married to a gaucho, so big fan of Santa Barbara.
I thought you said Groucho earlier. Oh,
sometimes that too.
I got you. So, John and I were.
I was the same. We were down there this summer with our senior looking, and we'd go to one school. He goes, "Yeah, maybe." We get to Santa Barbara. He goes, "I'm going here."
Yeah.
I'm like,
our son, when we looked at Santa Barbara, he looked at us and said, "What's not to like?"
Exactly. I don't know how you actually go to class.
Right. Right.
And John and I were only half joking, and maybe not even joking at all, that I think the whole college thing, the whole damn thing, is a scam, because I think that if you are a California student, they already have had my tax money. So my oldest is 18, so they've already got my money for 18 years. They don't want my actual student to show up at a California school. They want her to go somewhere else.
They do indeed.
So they can charge extra, and they want to bring all of the other students out of California so they can charge them extra.
Right. It's true that around the country we're swapping students so that in-state schools can get out-of-state tuition. That is a true statement. However, our public schools in California would say that for every out-of-state student or international student that attends UC or CSU, they're able to fund another 2 California students. So that's the thinking.
Yeah, but the other 2 can't get a class.
That's the rest of the scam.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
They can't get a class. So let's back up. So why don't you give us the Reader's Digest version? What do you do? What are your services, and why does a child need them, and when do they need them?
Okay. Well, what I do is I work with high school students to help them through the college admissions process, to identify colleges that could be good fits for them. I typically start early in the game with students, sometimes as early as freshmen, sometimes 8th grade parents talk to me, but certainly by sophomore year and definitely by junior year. And the idea is to help them identify what criteria they're looking for in a college, and to help them identify colleges that fit those criteria, and help them figure out how to get to those schools. So, what they need to do to be competitive for admissions for the kinds of schools they're looking at.
Now, do you do any of the financial related discussions, or do you pretty much say, okay, if you're going to go here, it's $50,000? Well,
what I do is I certainly talk to them about general financial questions, schools where they may be competitive for merit money. There are a couple of different questions when it comes to financing colleges. There's need-based aid, and then there's merit-based aid. And I certainly help them identify schools that tend to be more generous with merit aid.
Mm-hmm.
There are some colleges that don't give any merit aid. Certainly the more selective colleges don't. But there are lots of colleges that if you are a strong candidate in their applicant pool, you can get a nice chunk of merit aid.
And what is merit aid?
Merit aid is based on, of course, financial aid as we know it is based on need. So there are calculators and estimators that would tell a family if they would qualify for need-based aid. But then merit aid is based usually on your qualifications. So your high school GPA, your test scores, how strong you are compared to other students in a college's applicant pool. Sometimes merit aid can be related to, you had exceptional community service in high school or something like that, but typically it's related to a student's academic qualifications.
Yeah, and I think just so many things going through my head as I went through all this. I think the one thing that if you don't have any experience with a college age child yet, like we didn't, that you have to. The world is so different now, and so I'm sure there's people listening going, "Well, this is ridiculous." I mean, my kid's going to Chico, and that's all there's to it, or we already know where he's going, and you realize you don't realize that those schools are impacted,
right?
And if they do go there, it may be a 5 or 6 year plan.
Absolutely.
And then maybe there's another bypass route through a junior college. There's so many different things to go to that I mean, for me, when my wife starts, we need to look into a counselor, look into doing some of these things. I'm like, why? I mean, why can't you just do this on your own? And so I guess that's number one is you have to understand that there is a need for that.
Right.
And you even look at we're right around the corner from American River Junior College here, and I'm reading in the paper now that they've got people coming out the doors because if you can't get into the four-year university, your alternative is here, Sierra College or Folsom Lake City College, and they're all good schools, and they're getting backed up.
Right. They're impacted, too. And your point's well taken. There are certainly lots of ways to get a college degree. You know, I work with students who start at community colleges and transfer, and some of my families do the math and say, okay, if it's going to take my students 5 years to get through a CSU school and there's a 4-year private that I can get some merit money that cuts the costs of that school and I can be guaranteed to be in and out in 4 years, that can be a smart choice for many families.
Yeah, so you look, and I've started to learn and see some of the different websites that there's just so much great stuff online, and you can pull up a college and you can. And I always call the asking price, and they have the true price. And I haven't figured out yet who pays the ask. I'm sure I'm paying the asking price, regardless of where I go. But it does seem like you look at particularly a private university. If you list and says if they'll list under $50,000 for this and this and this, but then there's always like this other number that says actual average being paid by families is less. And I'm guessing is that the merit, maybe everything washed out of it because.
Well, it is. A lot of times those numbers indicate how many students get some kind of financial aid. But what's important, in last year, all schools started posting what they call a net price calculator on their financial aid pages. And that can be really helpful because then for some of these schools, you can put in your GPA, your test scores, and all of a sudden you can see if some schools offer automatic scholarships for certain combinations. I think of USF, University of San Francisco, has a very clear, if you are this GPA and have these test scores, you're going to get $20,000 off the top. So again, then you can figure out, again, the math to see if what that would look like compared to maybe 5 years at Chico or another CSU.
Yeah, and I think that I know we've got to take one more break and then we'll come back. But for me now I look back at my college experience and I say, okay, it's hard for me to look at these prices and say, is my child going to be that much better? I mean, is a private university going to be that much better than American River College or something else too? And so for me, I've started just taking more of a business approach to it, which is I'm shopping for a product.
Absolutely.
Just like I'm shopping for a car, like I'm shopping for a pair of shoes. And I'm trying to take the emotions out of it. Now, my wife and I didn't go to the big university and have that kind of the big university experience. So we have to kind of tamp that down because I keep telling her, honey, we're not going here.
Right.
This is not for us. This looks like a hell of a lot of fun, and we both have a great time here. But this isn't for us. So we have to kind of tamp that down. And so, and what I like about a lot of these websites that you're referring to is what is kind of that net cost, and also who are they going to meet there? You get everything from the financial breakdown to the racial breakdown to the blah blah blah. Who graduates? Who stays after the first year? I think that's hugely important.
Absolutely.
Who renews after they came here? They came here for a year, and if everybody leaves,
right.
Well, hell, then there's something going on there.
Right. The retention rate is certainly something to pay attention
Yeah.
to because, as you say, if people are leaving, then they're clearly not going to be graduating in 4 years.
Right. Or they've got they were sold a bill of goods that it didn't
Right.
turn out to be what they were looking for. So
Right.
I just think there's a lot of good stuff. We'll talk about that some more, and we'll talk about costs of doing these kind of things and those things as well. We got the end of the quiz question for us?
I sure do. So
And
we're going from college?
We did get an answer to our first one. It was 3%. It was only
Yes.
3% of the people. I would have guessed higher than that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
It's 103% of the people married the second time, but there was
yeah, exactly.
I had nothing. There was no reason to do a prenup because when I got married, because I was upside down. I was like, "You're getting those credit card bills, and you're getting those."
You
too.
were winning, right?
I had no job. I
It was
still
a
have
business decision. I'm winning, so we're good.
That's right.
So we're talking, let's see here. The second quiz question of the day has to do with food stamps.
Yeah. Now we're getting into my wheelhouse.
Yes.
So I will be needing those in just a couple more
because
calls
there's
here.
some change going on with food stamps, if you're not aware.
No, I'm not.
We'll get into that after, but there's an estimated $16 billion less to spend over the next 3 years in food stamps.
Ooh, that's a lot.
With 48 million people being affected.
Okay.
So the question is, what 18% of the U.S. food stamp benefits are spent at which retailer? So 18% of all current food stamp benefits are spent at one retailer.
I bet you they're going to be, they don't want to hear about a $6 billion decrease.
$16 billion.
Oh, 16. So 18% of that is a lot of dough.
Right.
That's not going to be good for anybody other than it'll be good for some people, I guess. It could be good for our federal deficit, but not for the retailer. So one retailer gets 18% of all food stamp recipients. Wow. Okay, 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. You can text me if you want, 44-1140. It looks like the text machine is working, I think. This is Talkin' Money. John Ferrero. Marie Putnam is in the studio. She'll be signing autographs later after the show.
Yes.
And between the breaks, we'll get all the good colleges. We'll come back with all the dirt. We'll be right back.
Talkin' Money.
And the action continues on Talkin' Money with Jeff Tarbell.
Right. We did get a quiz winner. What was your question? Something about food stamps?
Yes, 18% used where? At which retailer? And that would be Walmart.
Well, that makes sense because you can get everything.
But the big change, 48 million Americans with an estimated $16 billion less to spend over the next 3 years. So 18%, $16 billion. I'd be concerned too.
Yeah, that's gonna ring a bell there for somebody. Let's. We've got our final segment here. Marie Putnam is the college counselor with College Match, and we are kind of going through some of the trials and all the fun that goes along with hunting for colleges. And quite honestly, it's a lot of fun.
It is.
And we were talking between the break here. I think that's something that Marie's husband is Tom. Tom works with us at Comstock, and Tom was mentioning that you do a lot of college counseling and maybe mental counseling, and I think that's maybe that's really the best place to start, because if you just whip open a map of the United, you probably have one in your office, all the colleges in the United States, and,
right.
and as you mentioned, there's some phenomenal colleges that none of us have probably ever heard of.
Absolutely,
and they would be whatever your desire is, they're perfect for you, and they just don't happen to be sitting on the coast of California. They're somewhere else. But I think that it would be phenomenally helpful to take one step back and say, okay, what is our budget? Mm-hmm. We do that with everything else, everything else in our world. What is our realistic budget? And by the way, if you've got 3 kids, then we better multiply that times 3 or divide by 3, whatever we're going to do. So now that we have X numbers of dollars, and we know we do or do not qualify for X amount of aid, what does that leave us? What is the world of? Because I always say the VW and the Porsche are both great cars, but once you sit in the Porsche, the VW never looks quite as good, and they're both good cars. Right. So why go look at Porsches if we should be looking at VWs?
Right.
And so is that some of the things that you try to accomplish?
Absolutely. My starting point with students and families is identifying what criteria is going to be most important for a student to be successful. So everything from, what do you want to study, what size school, where do you want to be, that kind of, those kinds of questions. But then also the starting point with families is, what's our budget? Mm-hmm. And realistically, there are schools that offer very generous merit aid or financial aid if a family has need to qualify for aid. But I think my message to families is you really need to approach this as smart consumers. You need to shop for college just like you would any other product. A lot of times I have families, when they go visit colleges, visit the Career Center and ask those questions. What companies interviewed on your campus last year? How many students in my major had job offers by the time they graduate?
Would that pay when they got the job?
Exactly. And colleges have that information, but I think so often students and families are focused on the front end of the process. Oh no, am I going to get in? This is going to be, hard to get in. And you need to look at the bigger picture. Not only how do I get in, but also, what are going to be my opportunities after I graduate.
And that's the part I think I have the biggest challenge with, is that So when you walk on a car lot, the car dealer's thinking, oh, my God, I hope he picks me to buy this vehicle. When you walk on a university, you walk on the university going, God, I hope they would allow me to come here. And I'm thinking, what the hell?
Absolutely.
You're hoping you'll allow me to spend $200,000 at your private university the next years? Oh, well, very nice for you.
Right.
How about if I just give my daughter $200,000 and send her to junior college and here, go buy a house? I mean, would she be better off? I mean, I don't. So you have to make that switch. It's like, I'm not coming here begging that I can come to your university. You should be begging me.
Well, it depends on the school, and truly there are certainly the most selective universities. When you have a school like Stanford that accepted 5.7% of students last year, they don't need to beg anyone to come.
Exactly.
However, there are many, many fine colleges that have higher acceptance rates. They might be located, you just mentioned the southern coast of California. Maybe they're not in Southern California on the beach. Maybe they're in the Midwest. I have a lot of fantastic schools that graduate schools know about, that employers know about, but they're not located in sunny Los Angeles. They might be in Grinnell, Iowa, or somewhere else, Ohio, something like that. But they offer a fine education, and I call them, some of these schools, we try harder schools. They'll sweeten the deal for families to entice someone to come to a rural town in the Midwest. And there's some good financial deals to be had that way.
Well, I know my son's friend that stayed over last night, Matthew Taylor. He's 10 years old. He's in 5th grade, and he's going to Stanford. He told me. He's going to Stanford. He's going to be a gymnast, and that's where he's going.
Well, if he's a good gymnast, he probably will.
Right.
Go.
Right.
What are your thoughts on, you look at these AP classes for high school kids. So is there an advantage to taking these, basically these college level classes in high school? Do the colleges really accept that as being credits, and does it save them any money down the line? Because it is a load more work. I mean, it
is, but Jeff, it depends where you're headed. The more selective schools, I always tell students this: if you are headed to University of California or a selective private school, you can have a 4.0 GPA, but if you don't have AP classes on your transcript, there's no way these schools are going to accept you. They are looking for rigor. I always ask students at a first meeting, what do you think the most important thing is for these colleges? And, they immediately say GPA, and I'll say, well, that's a two-pronged answer there. GPA is part of it, but rigor of your curriculum is huge. It's probably the most important piece for the more selective schools. It is more work, but the advantage to that is that you're much more prepared when you get to college. You've already been doing college level work, so there's not that huge transition we talked about at the break. And then finally, for some schools don't give you, if you go to Stanford and you took AP Calculus and passed the test in high school, they're not going to give you college credit and let you skip calculus your first year. However, other schools, University of California is a great example. You do get a lot of college credit for every passed AP class, and because of that, I've had some students finish a UC in 3 years and a quarter because they came in with so much AP credit. So I definitely am a fan of AP classes. If, again, we don't want you to take AP classes and then fail. We don't want you to do that. But typically, a college will say their first choice is that you take these challenging classes and do well in them. But typically, most of these schools, they would rather see a B in an AP class than an A in a regular class. Their first choice, of course, is an A in the AP class.
Of course.
Do you, when you do these college tours, and obviously you can just walk on and walk around a college, which is different than actually signing up and taking a tour. Is there any, if it comes right down to, is there any advantage to, we see that Kelly was here, last summer and she did this and this, and does that push anything over, or all things being equal, or is it?
It's a great point. For large public schools, no, they don't. When UCLA has 90,000 applications, they can't track every kid who visited. But what you're talking about is called in the college industry demonstrated interest. And while some schools, Stanford has something on their website that says we don't track demonstrated interest, I would say that the majority of private schools do indeed track demonstrated interest. So when you take the official official campus tour and you sign in on the clipboard, they're noticing that yes, you've been to their school. When their rep comes to your high school and you attend their presentation, they take note of that. So that's a plus.
It does help then. Okay. The other thing I noticed that when we did a little tour back east, and it seems like there's a little bit of a change to. They were looking for, like, my daughter wants to do something a little different. She wants to kind of create her own, couple of majors and a little bit of a spin on a couple of different things. And it seems like some of those schools really encouraged, like, if you could bring us something that different, that we want to hear about, that we'd like to hear about that, rather than just saying I want to be a business major. I want to do this with this. I want to kind of make these things something special, and it was interesting to see that they were kind of encouraging that in some of the schools. Let us know what it is. If you don't see it on our list of standard menu items, tell us what it is that we should be doing that you want to do.
Right.
And so we're hoping that'll help too. But again, it irritates me because the very first counseling sessions that she had, which would have been a couple of years ago now. If you ask me what's the most important thing how your kid gets in college, I say your check clears. That was it. It's like, okay, here's the
and
menu.
That used to, years ago at some schools that was certainly the deal, but no longer.
And that's why I keep bringing it up is that I had no clue, and now you're down to my oldest daughter must have written 9 letter, all these letters have to go in and all these different things. There's so much there's so much detail into it's just not feeling, you have the financial application, you got the general you got the specific one, and you got to write a cover letter, and you got to do, and I'm exhausted, and I'm not even going, and it is enormous. So I for those that are listening that haven't got to this stage yet, I encourage you, and you tell me. I don't know at what point you say, okay, well, if you want to go to just a regular CSU school, you don't need all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Just fill out your application, and they'll get you in when they get you in. Maybe that's the case. Maybe she's looking at some schools that are.
Well, it's true that CSU that application is very straightforward. They are looking only at grades and test scores, but University of California, out-of-state publics, and private colleges are looking for all those additional pieces. They're looking at the activities you participated in high school. They're looking for essays. Private colleges are also looking for recommendation letters from high school teachers and your counselor. So yes, the little more complicated, but CSU is still a pretty straightforward application.
That's why we went to state schools, Jeff.
Yeah.
You just sign up.
It was either state pen or state school. I had to go one or the other there. So, and for those of you who have kids that are 2, 3, and 4 right now, and you're thinking, I don't need to know all this. All you need to know right now is get the 529 plan started. We started that back when our daughters were just basically just born. And believe it or not, there will become a day you actually have to take the money out, and it's getting very, very close. So, Marie, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of your company or get a hold of you if they want some information?
Probably to call me. My number is 916-967-5650.
And I'll post that on the Talkin' Money Facebook page as well. And this show will be posted up there on Monday, so if you want to hear it, listen to it again. We'll have a link to Marie's information as well. That is it for our hour today. Thank you very much.
Thank
you. That's great.
And if your kids are applying to school, good luck. What amazes me is the amount of marketing material that we get.
Oh my gosh!
And I'll be very honest, from schools that my daughter probably could never get into, and that's not a cut on her. I'm like, why are they sending me all this crap? We couldn't possibly go there. So it's interesting. But anyway, we had a good time, and I'll post this up there. Thanks, Chris. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Thank you.
Be safe, and thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next Saturday. Aloha.
Talkin' Money.